Today, we'll be covering the Big Ten Conference football. Over-under wins. Who will win the Big Ten? Will it be somebody from the East or somebody from the West? Stay with us.
And now, from Louisville, Kentucky, the horse capital of the world and sports junkies' finest, giving you wagering advice and sports analysis. It's On the Switch with your host, Gino G.
It's Gino G. Welcome back to On the Switch show. Today we will be covering the Big Ten Conference football, over and under wins. Who will win? Somebody from the East, somebody from the West. We'll find it out here today, but first, let's talk about my sunglasses, Shady Rays. We touched on this previously. I told my buddy again tonight, a different guy that I work with, I said, man, look how durable these things are. The guy I know for a fact is a guy who climbs. Someone's out in the wilderness. He was like, dude, I need a nice pair of sunglasses that are really durable, something that can go through very rigorous things that I do. I said, man, this is it. I said, and if perhaps they break, you lose them, they get stolen, Shady Rays, they will replace them for you. Shady Rays, head over there, shadyrays.com. Use promo code SWITCH to get an exclusive buy one, get one free offer today. Now back to the Big Ten Conference. This might be the most interesting from the standpoint of what do you do with Ohio State? What do you do with them? Is Urban Meyer in? Is he out? I thought we were supposed to find out on Sunday. Now here it is Wednesday. They say, oh, we're going to have a meeting on Wednesday and we'll let everybody know. To me, the longer that they take, the longer that it is that Urban Meyer is going to stay. With that being said, I think Ohio State is definitely the one to beat. Will they be my selection? We'll see. But right now, I'm interested in who's going to coach. Now you have all this Zach Smith stuff, $2,000 worth of sex toys sent to the university, taking nude pictures in the White House. Like, are you kidding me? This is just crazy to me, you know? And so now all this off-season stories, all these headlines, how does that affect the kids? I mean, obviously everybody knows, right? You turn on SportsCenter and there you are, Ohio State in some kind of scandal. You know, welcome to the life of the University of Louisville. Ohio State, welcome. Okay, we know all about this. You know, so Ohio State is going to be interesting how they go along in the season. They'll have, two games that are, not tough. And then they go to TCU third week. That's going to be an interesting game. You'll find out right then if they are focused or if they're not focused. And I think a lot of this will depend on, does Urban Meyer coach? If he's gone for 6 or 8 games, it's significant to me. If he's gone forever, definitely significant. But if he gets no suspension and he comes back immediately, Ohio State's going to be really tough. But let's start out at the very bottom. I know we always typically start at the top, but let's start at the bottom. And kind of like every single conference that we go through, whether it's last episode when talking about the Big 12, right? Kansas, awful. They are atrocious. And we even talked about it at SEC when Chris was here. Vanderbilt, bad. Really bad. To the point of, I said hot take, they wouldn't come within 10 points of winning a conference game this season. That's how bad they are. Welcome to the Big Ten Conference, Illinois. Coached by Lovie Smith. I love Lovie Smith, even when he was with the Chicago Bears, right? But God love him. Not going to win a game. Over or under 4. There's no chance. There's no way they win 4 games. They could win Kent State, Western Illinois, but then you play South Florida, Penn State. They go to Rutgers, which might be one of those like goofy games, but I just don't see 4 wins on here. I've seen lines of 3.5, even 3.5. I just don't see where they get 3 wins or anything more than 3 wins. Period. End of story. That's Illinois at the very bottom. We thought we'd start there because it's not really a whole lot to talk about. Up at the top though is Ohio State. They're plus 175 to win. Their over-under is 10.5. And as I said, I think a lot of this depends on Urban Meyer. Is Urban Meyer going to be there? Is he going to be able to coach? At what point, if he gets suspended, is it 2 games? Is it 4 games? Is it 6 games? Is it just this season? I don't know. And I think this is where I don't want to bank on him not being there or bank on him being there. So the over-under of 10.5, There is tons of talent on this team. Dwayne Haskins now is going to be the quarterback. He has a ridiculous arm, and he's a good runner. So in the offensive scheme that they run, he fits the bill. But if it wasn't for the Michigan game, I think people would have, Michigan game from last season, I think people would have a lot of questions about him. But I think the general public, the general consensus is this is going to be the guy moving forward that's going to be really, really good. Of course, if it's not for him, the guy who's going to win games for them is J.K. Dobbins, running back. He had 1,400 yards last season. I think he can at least match that, if not exceed that this season. He's going to be a front runner to win Big Ten Player of the Year. He's going to be in the Heisman talk, especially, like I said, in the first part of the season. You play Oregon State, then Rutgers. They're going to put up 60, and he could easily have 3 or 4 touchdowns in each game to start the season. They have 4 linemen return. Paris Campbell, KJ Hill, Johnny Dixon, those are the wide receiving core the core guys that you'll hear the most. Then on defense, you know what's ridiculous? There's another Boza at Ohio State on defense. And I feel like this is like 7th generation Boza that plays for Ohio State. I mean, this is absurd. I feel like the last 10 years, they've had a Boza play on defense, right? So he's going to core the defense, especially the front line. Chase Young, he's also going to be a key contributor. They're going to be young on the back end, especially safeties. They're talking about starting a redshirt freshman and a true freshman at safety. Again, it's something that we talked about in the last episode. It's just tough to do. I know they get top-rated guys, 5-star guys, but man alive, starting 2 freshmen back there, it's going to take a lot. Over under 10.5. I will lean towards under. I think they can easily go 10-2 with this schedule. Their away games. Listen to this: at TCU, at Penn State, at Michigan State. These are 3 games that they can easily lose. That's 9-3 right there. Now, I would say they probably pick off perhaps TCU because it's early, especially if Urban Meyer's coaching. Penn State's is going to be tough. Like, you can't just go up to Penn State and just win, right? And the Michigan State is always like that fun game every year. Then, of course, like they host Michigan at the very end of the season. There's just a lot of question marks. There's a lot of, like I said, off-season stories. I'm just not buying it. I know they have all the talent. The kids are still there. It's not like that part has changed, but I'm just not buying it. Over under 10.5. I'm going to take the under. The next favorite is Wisconsin. This is the interesting team when it comes to East and West. East has Ohio State, Michigan State, Michigan, and Penn State. All 4 ranked in the top 20. They're all 4 on one side. On the other side, you have Wisconsin by themselves. Iowa will be the next team, but there's a significant difference between Wisconsin and Iowa. Wisconsin is plus 400 to win the Big Ten. Their over-under is 10. They're on the easier side of the conference, so when they play the cross, so when they play the East games, you're talking about they play Michigan, which is at Michigan, and then at Penn State. That's 2 huge games for them. Now, can they win those? Sure. Can they lose those? Absolutely. The biggest key for them is not going to be Jonathan Taylor, who we all know is going to rush for 1 billion yards this season, as Wisconsin always does, right? He's going to be a Heisman frontrunner. I think right now he's 7-1 to win the Heisman. But they return 10 of 11 starters. The biggest question, the biggest issue that I have is Alex Hornibrook, the quarterback. He threw 12 touchdowns last season to 15 interceptions. That's just not going to get it done. This is a left-hander. He's very limited in the pass game. I don't think a single season, like an offseason, is going to make him all of a sudden a great quarterback. So they're obviously going to have to rely on Jonathan Taylor, and Hornibrook has to make plays. I know he threw 4 touchdowns in the bowl game, so maybe there's something to look towards, but I'm just not buying it. As far as Hornibrook, defensively, we know what we're going to get from Wisconsin. They're going to be tough. They're going to be rugged. They're going to be good against the run game. Obviously, their defensive line is going to be their strength. They returned 6 guys who played big-time minutes. They only returned 3 starters, but they returned 6 guys that played a bunch of minutes. Obviously, at Wisconsin, everything's interchangeable. So they use a lot of guys. They have a lot of depth. Defensive line will be the strength. They could easily lead the Big Ten in rushing defense. That's Wisconsin. They're plus 400, like I said, to win the Big Ten. Over-under is 10. I'm going to lean over just because they have such a weak schedule. I know they play at Michigan and at Penn State. Of course, you always go to Iowa, and when you go to Iowa, ask Ohio State last year how that goes. Iowa plays big-time games at home. So there are some sneaky games, but for the most part, when you only play 2 games, and that's at Michigan and at Penn State, even if you lose both of those, you're going to tie 10 games. You're going to go 10-2. I'm going to lean towards the over. Don't love it, but I don't think you can really lose. So next, and the next 3 are going to be all on the east side. Penn State is next. They're plus 450, over under 9.5. You say bye to Saquon Barkley, but you still have Trace McSorley at quarterback. Juwan Johnson is that big-time receiver. He's 6'4". He's huge. He's going to be the go-to guy for McSorley this year. The running back position, because Barkley is gone, and again, we didn't even mention offensive coordinator now. He's gone. So you replace offensive coordinator, although from what I understand, this guy's going to, for the most part, run the same type of offense that they ran last season. So it's not going to be a monster change, but you do return 4 starters on the offensive line, which is key. And McSorley's back. You have a guy in Juwan Johnson. They're going to have running back core that they'll use. So it'll be interchangeable. Whoever has the hot hand, they'll give that guy the ball. But the biggest question for me when it comes to Penn State is going to be defense. They only return 3 guys. Now, the 3 guys, 2 of them are on the defensive line. So you know the defensive line is going to be tough. Big-time corner that had 3 interceptions last season, that's going to be a guy as well that they're going to lean on heavily. I don't know if they can return to last season form defensively. Offensively, I think could actually get better without Barkley. But defensively, they could regress. And when they regress, I think they could regress more than the offensive progressing. So I think they could go a little bit backwards this season, over under 9.5. I'm going to lean under. Their key games, they play Ohio State, Michigan State, and Wisconsin all at home. Then they play at Michigan. Those are their 4 big games. I'm going to lean under. I don't necessarily know if they lose all 4 of those games, but you play goofy games like at Indiana. You play Iowa at home. You play at Rutgers, who's going to be improved. So I think defensively is going to be the biggest struggle, and I think they can lose 4 games, go something like 8-4. They could go 9-3. 9-3, I think it would be top end, but that's Penn State. Like I said, not in love with Penn State, over under 9.5. We're going to lean under. Next is Michigan. What's interesting about Michigan, they're plus 600 to win the Big Ten. Their over-under is 9. They start out first game of the season at Notre Dame. If you have any aspirations for going to the college football playoff, you have to win that game. Both of them, both teams, Notre Dame and Michigan. If you have any chance of going to the college football playoff, you need to win that game. Statement win. When you look at their schedule, they play a couple of big games. Wisconsin at home, Penn State at home. Then you go to Michigan State and to Ohio State. And then, of course, they go to Notre Dame first week of the season. That's their 5 big games. The biggest question, I think, offensively is how good is Shea Robertson? If Shea Robertson is the real deal, no lie, real deal, let's put it this way. In 7 games at Ole Miss last season, he threw for 2,700 yards. So if he threw for 2,800 yards, that's 400 yards a game that he was throwing against SEC competition. You don't think he's going to go to the Big Ten and just toss it all over the yard? Now, I don't know if Harbaugh is going to let him do that, but I'm interested in the fact that if Shea Patterson is as real as what everybody thinks he is, if he produces anything close to what he did at Ole Miss against the Big Ten, are you kidding me? You have Donovan Peoples-Jones throw to, Tariq Black. You have Chris Evans and Karen Higdon, who are going to be splitting the duties at running back. I will say the offensive line is a little bit of a question mark for them, but Shea Patterson can run. That's another positive. Defensively, this will be the best defense in the NCAA if there wasn't a team named Clemson. This will be the number 2 defense in the NCAA this season without question. Defensive line, linebacking core, cornerbacks, safeties. They have depth. They have talent. They have speed. They have strength. They tackle really well. Special teams, if your last name is Harbaugh, you specialize in special teams. Michigan, going to be super tough. Plus 600, over under at 9. I'm going to lean over on Michigan. I'm putting all my eggs in Shea Patterson's basket. I think he's the real deal. Next up, we have Michigan State. Michigan State is that team that just kind of lulls you to death. They're plus 875. Their over-under is 9. Their big games, actually second week, I think at Arizona State will tell us a lot about Michigan State and Arizona State in that game. Then they play at Penn State. They play at Nebraska. They play home games against Michigan, Ohio State. You have a game at Penn State. LJ Scott, a running back, is the real deal. He's a senior. He's going to rush for 1,100, 1,200 yards. He's a big-time player. The most underrated quarterback perhaps in the Big Ten is Brian Lewerke. I know he struggles a little bit down the field, but the guy doesn't turn the ball over, and the guy makes plays when he has to. Belton Davis and Darryl Stewart back at wide receiver. On offense, you return 10 of 11 guys, so the offensive line is going to be stout. Watch out for LJ Scott this season. I know we mentioned him just a second ago, but he could be a guy, if Michigan State makes a run at the Big Ten, he could be the Big Ten Player of the Year. He's that good. He's that talented. He's that big. He's that strong. LJ Scott, big-time player. Now, also for Michigan State, they return 9 of 11 guys on defense. We know D'Antoni, we know what kind of defense he's going to put out there. Strong, big, fast, good tackling core. They're that team that just stuffs you at the line, right? You're not going to run against them. You might get some yardage through the air, but for the most part, it's going to be a struggle to go all the way down the field and score a touchdown. Returning 9 of 11 guys is significant. The only thing that I have to say is when you have teams like Michigan and Ohio State, these teams are going to want to score. I don't know if Michigan State can keep up with that kind of rate of scoring. Now, if their defense is as good as what they should be, perhaps maybe they don't need to score that much. But those teams are going to want to score 40 or 50. Michigan State doesn't have that firepower. So over under 9, I think it's a good line. I'm going to lean over just because the amount of starters they have returning, 19 of 22, significant. It's a significant deal. I'm going to lean over 9 for Michigan State. Then you have a significant drop-off. You have like teams like Northwestern, Purdue, Iowa. We'll start with Iowa. Nate Stanley is back. He's going to be relied on heavily. Wadley is gone at running back. He was the guy that, Stanley handed the ball off to all the time. I mean, the guy I think was averaging, and I could be wrong, someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Wadley was averaging 23 carries a game in college. I mean, he was just a load. Noah Fant might be the best tight end in the NCAA. That's going to be Stanley's guy this season. Iowa's 30-1 to win the Big Ten. Their over-under is 7.5. They're in the weaker part, the West. I don't know. I mean, the linebacking core on defense is going to hurt because they lost 2 all Big Ten guys. The secondary will be solid, but the defensive line will struggle, although it seems like Iowa always, it's like plug and replace. They just pump those guys out. Although my grandfather went to the University of Iowa, I don't know if I can jump on the bandwagon and go over 7.5. I'm going to lean under on Iowa. Northwestern, as we just mentioned, they're also 30-1 to win the Big Ten. Their over-under is 6. And I think this is solely based on whether or not you think Thorson is healthy. If he's healthy, this team could be really good. They have 3 all Big Ten preseason defensive players at all 3 levels. 1 on the line, 1 at linebacker, and 1 in the secondary. So their defense is going to be solid for the most part. If Thorson is healthy, Larkin is that running back who averaged 6 yards a carry last season. Wide receiving core has another year under their belt. This could be a dangerous team. I just can't bank on the fact that Thorson is going to be healthy. The guy, if I'm not mistaken, tore his ACL and now has only been out for like 6 months. Usually ACL is like an entire year. Like, bro, you're done for an entire year. But he's coming back. People say he's healthy. And if he is and can stay healthy, this team is dangerous. Over under 6, I'm going to lean under just from the standpoint that I just don't buy into this whole 6 or 7 month ACL tear and now you're coming back playing at full strength. No way. So I'm going to lean under on Northwestern. My best bet, though, for the Big Ten comes right here with Purdue. Purdue's 30-1 to win the Big Ten. Their over and under is 6.5. Sindelar and Blau both got hurt last season. Sindelar is going to be the guy now. From what I understand, from what I read, Sindelar has made enough progression. He is healthy, and it's going to be Brom's guy. Brom had a fantastic season last season. He took Louisville and Wisconsin down to the wire. Now, it's going to be running back by committee on offense. Rondale Moore is a freshman that you'll want to key. Rondale Moore, he's a wide receiver. He's a freshman. He's going to be a key guy that Sindelar is going to throw to. They're going to have to replace a lot of parts on the defensive side. Marcus Bailey, though, another name you should remember. Marcus Bailey, he's a linebacker. He has all-American talent. But although he had success in his first season, Brom's going to struggle this season. He lost key parts on the offense and lots of key parts on the defense. I think we'll see a big regression this season from Purdue. I am big, everybody. You always want value. Hear it on the switch. Here it is. Under 6.5 wins for Purdue. Under. Big. Best bet of the Big Ten. Under 6.5 wins for Purdue. Next, we have perhaps what might be the most watched team in the Big Ten, and that's Nebraska. Why? It's Scott Frost time. There's tons of question marks at quarterback. We have no idea who's going to start. Could be a true freshman. Stanley Morgan and JT Spielman are big-time wide receivers. Big-time wide receivers. It's going to be a running back by committee also at Nebraska. Scott Frost is a guy who, whoever has the hot hand, he doesn't give a shit. He's like, hey, man, you're tearing them off. You're our guy. I mean, it could be the water boy. He doesn't care. On defense, he has parts. I'm sorry. It's true, though. That's how Scott Frost is, man. It's how he is.
That's too funny.
But it's true. You should see him at UCF. You saw guys coming out on the field. Even the announcers were like, hey, number 33, who the fuck is that? You know? But this is how it is. On defense, they have tons of parts to be successful. Although they've gone through 3 transformations in 4 seasons, they stay with the 4-3 lineup, and the defensive line will be by far the best part of that defense. And Scott Frost and his DC, they blitz a ton, and that's not going to change. I think he's going to try and keep teams off balance. He's going to have talent on the offensive side. This is a team over or under 6.5. They're 33-1 to win the Big Ten. I don't think they have a chance in hell to win the Big Ten. But over or under 6.5, I think it's a little ambitious in his first season, but I think it's possible that Nebraska can go over 6.5 wins. Next we have is Rutgers, and we mentioned them a little bit earlier. They're 45-1 to win the Big Ten. Over or under is 4. They have perhaps one of the toughest schedules in the Big Ten. They play at Ohio State, at Michigan State, at Wisconsin. They play Penn State and Michigan at home. They get Northwestern at home. I mean, you get a cupcake in Texas State, and although you play at Kansas, that one should be a cupcake as well. Buffalo could easily beat them at home. Indiana should beat them at home. There's not a whole lot of wins. You do get Illinois at home. They should crush them. There's not a lot of gimme, so over under 4, I'm going to lean under because I don't think Kansas is a gimme, right? We're not sure at Rutgers who's going to play quarterback yet. They got like 3 guys still working it out. Hilleman, who's a transfer from Boston College, is a big-time player at running back. He's a graduate transfer. He's going to be a huge part of their offense. The wide receiving core looks, and I hate using this word, but bleak. They are going to be young. They're not very talented. I'm not sure what to expect out of their wide receiving core. So when you're not sure about quarterback, you're not really sure about wide receiver, the O-line only returns 2. Hilleman at running back is big time. The defense, again, and this is another point as to why to lean under. The defensive line is going to be weak. The secondary, they will be strong. They have 2 corners that are big time, but linebacking core are all going to be replaced. This is a team that doesn't look, especially when you look at their schedule, this doesn't seem like a team that's going to win 5 games. I'm going to lean under, although I think they go 4-8, which would break even here. I think they could easily go 3-9. I don't see them winning 5 games. Now, next, probably one of the saddest moments in this offseason was the passing of McNair, the offensive lineman at Maryland. Now DJ Durkin is what I expect is to be gone. I think he's going to be gone. He's laid off right now. This team is 45-1 to win the Big Ten. The over and under is 5. Again, when you lose your head coach, you lose some swag. We don't know what's going to happen when it comes to head coach with that entire situation. They had so many injuries last season at quarterback. They started 3-1. There's actually a lot of excitement, but every quarterback went down. Actually, to one point, and this is no lie, they started a cornerback at quarterback last season. They didn't have a choice. It was atrocious to watch. It was awful. They have talent on the outside at wide receiver. They have running backs that are more than capable. And if these quarterbacks are healthy, the offense can actually go. The defense, they add a couple of grad transfers. They add a couple of JUCO transfers. They're going to be plug and replace. Although they will rely more on the offense than they do the defense has a chance to be decent. Not good, not great, but decent. Well enough that they can win 5 games. My issue is the whole coaching thing. If DJ Durkin is there, I think they have the chance to win 6 games and go to a bowl game. If he's not, it could be shambles. It could be 3-9. I'm going to lean under because of the entire situation. That's Maryland, 45-1 to win the Big Ten. Hell no. 45-1, no thanks. Over under 5, I'm going to lean under for Maryland. Next up, we have the Hoosiers of Indiana. Another team that just has a ton of questions at quarterback. You just don't know who's going to play quarterback. I love Nick Westbrook, who got hurt the very first play on the kickoff last season. 2016, he had almost 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns at wide receiver. Morgan Ellison is a serious threat at running back. And if perhaps he played for somebody other than Indiana, he could get a lot of notoriety and a lot of momentum when it comes to going for Big Ten Player of the Year. He's serious. Morgan Ellison, big-time player, running back. Defense, though, they lose 8 starters that were just not very good. They do add 2 transfers in, actually 1 from Alabama. They add 2 JUCOs who will play immediately as well. At safety, they have 2 seniors who will core that back end. But man, the question marks on defense is just crazy. Just crazy. When I look at these over-unders, right, and you have question marks at quarterback, those are usually the guys that win you games. Sure, you can have a running back that just goes nuts, and so you don't really need a quarterback to do much. When you have a team like Indiana, you look at their schedule, you need a quarterback. You need a consistent quarterback. Over under 5, I'm going to lean under just because you don't know who's going to play quarterback. You don't know what their effectiveness is going to be. But if you see an effective quarterback in the first few weeks of the season, they play at Florida International, then Virginia at home, then Ball State at home. So it's 3 winnable games that they should have. Then they host Michigan State. That right there, if you see an effective quarterback in the first 3 weeks, I would play the over in the Michigan State game. 4th week, it could be a big time over. So we'll keep in touch with Indiana the first couple weeks of the season, see what kind of progression we get at quarterback, and we could play big time over against Michigan State. Lastly, we have PJ Fleck in Minnesota. I love PJ Fleck. He is the best. We talked about Cliff Kingsbury in the Big 12 being the best dressed. PJ Fleck is the best dressed in the Big 10 by far. It's not even close. No, he doesn't strut the Ray-Bans, okay? But the guy's just flashy. He's a young guy. Loves the windbreaker quarter zip. Oh, dude, I love it. Now, I hate Minnesota's colors, right? That ugly-ass brown and yellow. Ugh. But the way he struts it, I'm like, bro, I'd kill that. I'd kill that. PJ Fleck, he will have perhaps the most talented team that nobody talks about. He has 4- and 5-star guys that are freshmen, right? It's hard to get a 5-star guy at Minnesota. He has 3 of them. What he did in his second season at Western Michigan, he went plus 7 games. They won 2 games first season. They won 9. No, excuse me. They won 3 games and they won 10 the second season. If he has that here, he's going to win 12 games. He's going to go 12-0. That won't happen. But Tanner Morgan is a capable quarterback. You have a senior running back who will provide stability, ball control. He's also a great receiver at the running back position. You have a Bama transfer on defense, O.J. Smith, who is legit, 5-star guy. They have 3 big-time returners in cornerback, safety, and a linebacker. When you add O.J. Smith to that defense, talking about, again, a serious defense, a lot of question marks, a lot of, oh, I don't know, or we'll find out. Well, they play New Mexico State, Fresno State, then Miami, Ohio. In 3 games, you'll find out really quick. Minnesota, are they real or are they not real? I'm going to take the upside here. I'm going to go over 6 for Minnesota. They're 50-1 to win the Big Ten. I'm going to take over 6 because they do play in the weaker West division. How about this? They fade Michigan, Michigan State, and Penn State. The only other team that they play is at Ohio State. They play at Wisconsin, who's in their division. But they fade all the other big dogs. Over under 6, I'm going to lean over because of the upside. So that's the breakdown for the Big Ten. Now, bets. Who is going to win the Big Ten? As I kind of hinted on it, the team that I'm taking, and I'm betting them big. So almost in a way, it's going to be 2 bets. It's going to be 2 bets for me. I gave out my best bet. Under 6.5 on Purdue, right? That's my best bet at the Big Ten, 100%. Under 6.5. If they make a bowl game, they're going to be lucky because they're only going to win 6 games. But to win the Big Ten, my best bet, my only bet, and one that I'm going to bet huge on, Michigan. 6-1 to win the Big Ten. Here's why. I'm putting all of my eggs in Shea Patterson. Offense as dynamic as it was outside of the pass. Run game, we're doing some of these bubble screen, a lot of trick plays and that kind of stuff. Having success, but through the air, 191 yards per game through the air. Now you get a guy who played 7 games, almost averaging 400 through the air. Can you imagine with that running game, with the best defense in the Big Ten by far? They're going to be the best they're going to be the best defense in the Big Ten. And if there wasn't a team named Clemson, I hinted on this earlier. There wasn't a team named Clemson, they would have the best defense in the NCAA this season. No question. Defensive line, linebacking core, secondary, unreal, this defense. I'm putting all my eggs in Shea Patterson. Yes, they have big-time games. Very first game, at Notre Dame. Then they play at Michigan State. They play Wisconsin at home, Penn State at home. Then they go to Ohio State. Yes, big-time games, but hot take, and we'll go one step further. I believe, in my opinion, Michigan will go 11-1. They will then win the Big Ten title and go 12-1. And they will be the last team in the college football playoff. They will be the 4th team in. So my 4 teams in the college football playoff, you have Alabama, shoe-in. Clemson, shoe-in. Washington, who I think is a shoe-in. I think they go undefeated this season. And then 12-1, wins the Big Ten, Michigan. Shea Patterson takes them all the way to the college football playoff. They'll play Alabama the first game and get drubbed. So that's my 4. That's my 2 bets for the Big Ten that I love. Under 6.5 for Purdue. Michigan to win the Big Ten. I want everybody to stay with us here at On the Switch. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the Traverse, which is coming up this weekend. Then also on Friday, we'll have a guest host here, Zach. We'll be talking about the NFL, fantasy football, DraftKings, those kind of things when it comes to the NFL. If you're still waiting to draft your team for your fantasy league with all your friends, your coworkers, your family, keep it here at On the Switch. Friday, we're going to talk about NFL. We'll give you so many insights when it comes to rookies, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, top guys. Guys maybe you don't necessarily think about that if you play deep leagues, you'll need to keep an eye on these. We'll have everything here at On the Switch. As we always say from Travis and I here in Louisville, Kentucky, we love you all more than anything. Follow us on Twitter at OnSwitch1. Leave us a comment, leave us a message. We'll always love taking your comments and talking about them here on the show. For everybody here, again, stay with us this week. We'll have a lot of content. College football starts this weekend. Stay with us.
On the Switch.